get into it.
Welcome in, making the cut, week 11. Ooh, it's getting close now. Getting close now. We only have 4 guillotine waiver periods left, folks. 4. So it's heating up. Hope you still have some money left. Hope you haven't blown it all by now. And just in general, it's another fun week here with as we work our way through the buys. Just in general, Lance, how you doing?
I'm doing 60-degree day in Minnesota. You can't complain about that. So I mean,
Yeah, it was almost 70 here in Denver, and I'm like, that's not concerning.
no, I know, right?
It's not
After all
concerning at
the
all. That's not a
snow
problem.
and cold weather
Yeah,
and all
that's
the
not a
fun
problem.
stuff we've been through, no.
Yeah, for Minnesota especially, where it's like, no, it should be snowing by now.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and same thing with Denver. Like we've had one snowfall. That's not really enough.
No.
Like we should have already had a couple by now.
Right.
Usually we get one big one and a couple little ones, but we've had one, and it didn't even snow 3 inches, and it was like, ooh, it's gonna be like that. This place will burn to a crisp. Like we need more moisture than that. So I know people are like, why are you rooting for the snow? And I'm like, well, that's kind of how we get our drinking water. So do you want to be on
Yep.
water restrictions in July? Because I got to tell you, I had that happen once. It sucked. Can't water your lawn. Can't wash your car. You get
Mhm.
fined for it. They're serious. Like they are not
Oh,
playing.
yeah.
Like it is not a joke. So no, I don't care for that. Week 11 buys. Remember last week how all the playoff teams were on buy? That was fun. Okay, this week we got 4 teams on buy. None of the playoff teams are on buy. Your bye week teams are
Well,
Atlanta. Well, okay,
potentially 2, but that's just because of the division they're in.
you know what I mean. This is
Yeah,
nowhere near
yeah.
as
That's
invasive.
true.
Falcons, Saints, Patriots, Colts all on bye this week. So you will have to get a little bit creative here, more than likely, with how you kind of set your lineups. Colts, definitely, you had a couple players that you were playing. So no Taylor, no Pittman, no Downs. That's actually a good thing for Downs. It might give him another week to get healthy. So I'm actually bullish on that. Patriots, you're just looking for really like a Demario Douglas replacement, maybe Ramondre. That's kind of it. Saints, Kamara and Olave. I guess Taysom Hill if you're a degenerate. And then the Falcons is like what Bijan and I guess Drake London, but you were probably already rotating Drake London anyway. So
Well, you
you're
save
talking about
yourself a headache with Arthur Smith not playing him.
yeah.
So,
What are you talking about? Like 6 guys roughly across those teams, 6 or 7
yeah,
people that
about.
you're really looking for replacements for. It's not that bad. It's
No.
not that bad, guys. Uh, and the schedule is a little better this week as well. The last 2 weeks have been rough.
Hmm.
Rough out here for the last couple trying to get through these last couple weeks. It is boy, it's been ugly. We get a halfway decent Thursday night game. I actually wish they could flex this out because I'd like to see this played in prime time. Bengals Ravens. So that's another wrinkle for making decisions. Probably not going to have T Higgins, which kind of sucks. But you've got some better games. You got Steelers Browns in the main slate. That could be fun in the morning. And then you have in the afternoon you have Bucks Niners could be
Hmm.
worth a laugh, and Bills Jets. Bills Jets could be absolutely hysterical. Like if you're in it for the comedy, Bills Jets might actually be the funniest game, just in general. Like
I mean, there's a certain amount of irony to the defense that gave up 70, just let up a historic day to Miami. That's a defense that got an offensive coordinator fired last night.
yep, life
So,
comes at you fast. And then Monday Night Football is the game of the week by far, and it's not a comedy related thing. It's a serious thing.
Mhm.
It's Eagles Chiefs, and that's a potential like Super Bowl preview. So
Hmm.
that's that level of game. So that's looking forward to that, especially with both teams coming off the bye. So
Yep.
they've each had an extra week, and then you get an extra day on Monday Night Football. That game could be really good. So normally it's like last couple weeks I'm like, go read a book, spend some time with your family, go get the car worked on, get your yard work done before winter starts properly. But this week, make plans Monday after. Don't make any plans Monday after work. Probably want to watch that. That's legit. So there's some. Oh, and then Sunday afternoon, Seahawks Rams. I know the Rams have a terrible record, but that's like a division game. That could be decent.
Hmm.
That could be decent. So I don't think Kyron Williams is eligible to be reactivated, which is a shame, but that's okay. It still could be decent. So just some quick notes about this week, and it's very relevant, especially for Guillotine. Less so in other formats where you're kind of just stuck. But we'll go through it formally as we do. Quarterback. It's getting slim pickings this time of year, man. Especially with some weird buys that have occurred. So you don't have some of the people that we've liked to kick around here in the background. I only have three, and one of them I don't even really want. If I'm being pretty honest about it. But the two that I think are interesting is Russell Wilson.
Mm.
I know that they're playing against Minnesota, but I'm still not afraid of that. That game is going to be wild. And Russell Wilson has quietly been playing better because they have completely relegated him to game manager status. If you watch that game last night, they're not letting him. Russ ain't cooking no more. Russ is ordering takeout. That is not. They're back to the Seattle way of running Russell Wilson. Seriously, that's what I'm noticing. It's like this offense. They've taken it down to like this looks like how Seattle used to look for years, and it's got with a couple Sean Payton Saints wrinkles. But you can tell, like it looks like they've just gone back to no. This is what you do well. This is what we are going to allow you to do, and I don't want to hear no complaining. You had your shot to be the man last year at the beginning of this year, and you can't do it. So now you're going to do what I say, and that's just kind of where we're at. That being said, he was 24 for 29. That's not bad. You'll take that. I mean, if that's game manager, that's pretty good. He only threw for 194 yards though. That's kind of the point. He threw for 2 touchdowns, so you like that. And then Cortland Sutton continues his unbelievable touchdown streak. It's incredible. That's Cortland Sutton is going to get paid. That
Hmm.
man is going to get paid, and I think somebody might be bitterly disappointed. But that man is going to get paid just based on the amount of touchdowns he has scored, the red zone weapon. He really is. They were talking about making him the new Michael Thomas. Boy, mission accomplished. That is just absolutely. He looks just like it. He does really remind me of young pre-injury Michael Thomas.
Hmm.
Not fast, big target, good catch radius,
Oh, absolutely.
works well in the red zone. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, it's man, I've seen guys play in the NFL for a long time doing that. Don't really need you to be that fast. And with
Right.
his knee injuries, he ain't gonna never be that fast again. I remember when he was younger coming out of SMU and he could fly. And that's just not how that's gonna work anymore. But it is what it is. So Russell Wilson would be my number one, just based on the idea that I feel like I know what I'm getting at this point. The ceiling is not that high, but if this is going to be the offense, and then we're going to give the ball to Javonte Williams over and over and over and over again, remind you of the Seahawks, reminded me of the Seahawks, and it's just like this
Oh
is what
boy.
we're going to do. I'm fine with it. Russell Wilson, if he's going to play like that, he's going to be a quarterback too, and he makes some boneheaded plays and does some dumb stuff. Like I don't know if you saw that game last night, but I still remember that second down play where he's in the shotgun, he peels out to the right. He had a couple yards if he just wanted to take it and get out of bounds. Nope, peels back to the left and just gets blasted
Yeah.
and costs them like 10 yards. And I'm like, yeah, you can't. You're not 18 anymore, Russ.
No, he's very hesitant to run it now, and I get that was a big thing, back when he started the rumbling in Seattle of oh he's been hit too much and he doesn't want to run,
Yeah,
and all this stuff to try to avoid hits, but it's
too
just like,
bad.
dude, when it's there, you got to take it. And that's not saying you have to be a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, but like, dude, when you know you can scramble and get 3 yards and a first down, take it.
Or just get 3, 4 yards and slide. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
asking you to do
exactly.
anything
Yeah.
crazy. Just go 3, 4 yards and slide or just jump out of bounds. Like it's what he needs to do, and I think they've kind of are starting to reach an equilibrium with some of that.
Hmm.
So the Broncos have come a long way from the 0-3 start they had, where they just got embarrassed again and again and again at the beginning of the year. Weirdly, firing a bunch of people at the trade deadline and then just releasing a couple players that had been with them for a while. Honestly, it seems to have made a difference.
Yeah.
I was pretty skeptical that that would do anything, but no, there's a like I don't want to accuse people of being a locker room cancer, but it definitely feels like since they cut a couple of their old defensive players that suddenly everybody else just is playing better. And
Yeah.
it's they seem like they're happier at work.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like and the O-line's been playing better because they're not asking them to stand there and pass protect for Russ the way that they were. And it's like, dude, just have them run block. Don't screw with it. Just run this scaled down, simplified offense, and it's actually reasonably effective. Because what's funny is the Broncos' number from last year was 19. If they could score average 19 points with the defense they have, they would have been a playoff team last year. And generally, that's been true for the last several years. And when you know it, this year when they score 24 points, they win.
Right.
And granted, Buffalo did them some favors, but Buffalo also turned the ball over 4 times and didn't deserve to win that game. That's just the way it goes, man. If you turn the ball over 4 times, you don't deserve to win that game. You might get lucky and win it anyway, but no, they Buffalo needs to go have a bye week soon and have a conversation internally about what do they want to do? Who do they want to be when they grow up? Because this is not working.
No.
That game was drunk. That game was super drunk.
It was an
Right
ugly
around the
one.
It's right around the part where James Cook fumbled the ball to himself.
Yeah, and then
And I'm
kept
like, this game is
running down
drunk.
and down. I'm
Like,
like,
get out of it. This game
wow.
needs to be over.
It's a Thursday night game. Like, come on.
Like, this game needs to end. Like, we need to get out of here, man. This
Hmm.
game's got to be done. Like, this game needs an Uber home and some Taco Bell. Sober up a little bit, because like that game cannot be out. That game's gonna get a public intox ticket if it stayed on for too much longer. Like, it was
Oh yeah.
wild. So Russ is gonna be my number one, and I spent so much time on it mostly just to say Russ is kind of like an actual QB2 at this point for me, kind of for the rest of the year. The Broncos' schedule isn't that hard. Are they going to win any of these games? I don't know. Couldn't tell you, but probably not. But their schedule isn't that bad. Play the Chargers a couple times, play the Raiders one more time, play the Patriots. Like, there's not a whole lot on there that really scares me. Play the Vikings defense. Like, the Vikings defense isn't that good. Like, it's decent. So he's one that I'm looking at for kind of all formats, whether it's guillotine or no. I'm kind of like, if I feel I need a backup quarterback, I'm okay with this. It's fine. It's maybe not my favorite thing in the world, but it's okay. And then my only other 2 names are very simple. The next one is Matthew Stafford, because he's going to get Kyron Williams back, and they're coming off the bye, so they should be a little bit healthier. He's going to get Kyron Williams back next week. That'll help, just having some kind of competent run game. And then I have a feeling they'll use the bye to try and figure out what the hell is going on with their O-line and kind of refocus on getting Cooper Kupp and Puka the football as much as possible. So Stafford is my 2. And then my only other guy is, this is the one I referenced that you don't even really want. It's Jordan Love, because my God, is it ugly. But that's kind of a 1-week rental type of
Hmm.
situation. I'm maybe 2-week rental.
Yeah, I was about to say 2 week because they play Los Angeles and Detroit, and we just saw those two get in a
Mm-hmm.
shootout. And Jordan Love's been pushing the ball down the field. He's,
They have to. They suck. They don't have any other option. When you're losing by 14 in the fourth quarter, what else are you going to do?
yeah. No, I mean, you said it, but and this is kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but you see with Jaden Reed and his, the speed that he brings to the
I have
table.
so many Jaden Reed shares
Yeah.
from this season, just from people not wanting it, and I'm like, okay, I'll be
Yeah, you
patient.
said earlier that, he was overtaking Christian Watson, and I was skeptical of it. Now, granted, I think I referred to Christian Watson earlier as a Chase glorified Chase Claypool. And I was half kidding because I'm a Bears fan, but now, oh my God, yeah, like Jaden Reed is definitely the number 2 in there, and Next Gen Stats has a air yards to the sticks, which shows how often they're throwing past the sticks, and Jordan Love is 1 of 5 that is consistently throwing past the sticks.
Yeah.
So, you're gonna get that in there. You're definitely gonna get some fantasy points. Now, granted, does he have the second most interceptions? Yeah. But, we saw that be more than salvageable all the way back with Jameis. And since we're on the topic of Jameis, I am a little frustrated that Saints have their bye this week because I feel if they didn't, Jameis would have been out there. And with those playmakers, that honestly excites me.
It'd be an
To see
interesting
what
rental.
it would be interesting to see what he could do. I think everyone in the league wants to see Jameis at least one more time before he
Well, I
hangs
think
it up.
he might actually get a shot
Yeah,
somewhere.
no, he
I
definitely.
think he might get one last shot to try to
Yeah,
start at a certain point in a league where Jacoby Brissett keeps getting opportunities. You know what I mean?
yeah.
At some point, I feel like somebody's going to have no better option, and his contract's going to come up, and they're going to try and pay him. We'll just have
Mm.
to see where that is, but it's not going to be this year. And I really don't think the Saints are in a position yet where they're going to bench Carr, who they just paid all that money for Jameis, just without Carr being seriously hurt. So we'll see if
No,
Carr can clear the protocol and get back for week 12.
yeah,
We
that's kind
we're
of
just
the
gonna have to
thing.
see.
If he's back, then obviously it doesn't matter.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, Russell Wilson, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I'll take that, and yeah, he's not being asked to do much. He's more, getting the ball into Cortland Sutton or his skill players' hands and letting them do the work. But it's turning out that's a lot more efficient than this time last year, where he had only thrown 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. There
Yeah.
was some guy consistently posting, there's more bathrooms in this house or something like that than
Then right.
he had touchdowns, and he kept on posting that all the way up until Christmas, it felt like. So he's definitely doing better than last year. Jordan Love we touched on. Josh Dobbs I know is just above the threshold, but if the Pastronaut is available in your league, you got to go get him. I mean, the dude is on fire
If he's
right now. Like,
available. Yeah.
he's exciting to watch. There's really not enough good things I can say about that. The one thing that sucks is he does have a bye coming up, week
Yeah.
13.
Yeah.
So it kind of, you get something good and then boom, you got to find something for it. But he is coming off 4 straight games with a rushing touchdown. And the only other one I'd add to the list is Baker Mayfield. He's got a great supporting cast.
With
And
Baker
of
being
course,
such a hot waiver ad, we'll have to see if he gets dumped back onto the wire because he was a huge
yeah,
waiver ad last week. So he
right.
actually went way above the threshold. But
Oh, he did. Okay.
yeah, but he draws the 49ers this week. And so I could
Hmm.
see him getting cut. So you're going to have to check your various situations tomorrow morning, more than likely, and
Right.
see what's going on. And in Guillotine, you'll have to wait until Thursday
Hmm.
because I don't know what's going to happen with that. So we'll see if he gets cut to enough of a level where it becomes relevant. So specifically for Guillotine, for players that might have gotten chopped, I mean, the one that jumps off the page to me is Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Maybe that happened, although he did salvage it with the rushing touchdown at the end. So he probably still put up something like 17, 18 points,
Hmm.
as frustrating as that was. But if he was somehow clipped, I would be interested in that just because they've got the bye coming up. And if I needed a quarterback, he's still, I know it hasn't been going well and he's been having way too many turnovers. But if you go back and look at last year, this is functionally exactly where the Bills were last year. They lost 2 embarrassing games in a row and then basically ran the table.
Yeah.
They had their bye and then ran the table. So I would be surprised if they ran the table, but I'd be more surprised if they didn't fix it and then go to the playoffs anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do something. My expectation is that they're going to try and exercise some demons against the Jets this week, because if you lose to the Jets, now you got a problem.
Yeah.
Now it's a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in Josh Allen. To give people a sense of how much money I would spend, it depends on how badly I would need a quarterback. If the answer to that is desperately, well, you have 4 waiver periods left, so you can kind of chunk out how much money you think you need. But I would be willing to plunk down like $50 on this idea and see what I get. If I was desperate, I might be willing to go a little bit more. Like if I've been streaming all year and this is my opportunity, okay. But just keep in mind that there's a very real chance that everybody who's left is going to have a good quarterback by now, and some additional teams are going to have to get cut. But if you feel it's a matter of survival, well, then you got to do what you got to do. So
Right.
$50 is my jumping off point. Increase depending on severity of need.
Yeah.
Is there anybody you like on this list immediately? That was just the first name that I made a note of when we were I was looking at this earlier today.
For Allen, I'm seeing just shy of 20. Lamar, I'm seeing around 15. Um, Trevor Lawrence is all the way down less than 5. Um, like you said, and if you're in a guillotine league, more than likely someone's got, everyone else in there at this point has someone who's putting up consistently over 20. If you're in dire straits and you need someone, yeah, I guess I'd go. Yeah, probably about 50 for Allen or Lamar. I guess, whatever your preference is.
Yeah, it depends which one would be
Um,
available. I'm assuming that this advice would also apply to Lamar because
mhm.
he's not gonna be that bad every week. It's
No.
not really possible. You got to throw out some of these Cleveland games with the Ravens because the
Mhm.
Ravens are a really, really, really good football team unless they're playing Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like if it's just because of the division matchups and the Browns know how to manipulate them, but that definitely seems to be a recurring theme, which is Ravens are really good until they have to play Cleveland, and then all bets are off.
Well, I mean, so is San Fran until they played Cleveland. So, I mean,
Well, that's because Cleveland's defense is legitimate.
Cleveland's got
Cleveland's
it
defense is a
going.
top 5 NFL defense right now.
Hmm.
For real. Their offense is crap. They remind me. You're talking about you being a Bears fan. They remind me of the old Bears teams,
Sexy
where it's like
Rexy.
they remind me of like the Khalil Mack Bears teams,
Oh, God.
where
Too
it's like
soon.
where
Too
where it's like
soon.
the defense is like a top 3 defense in the league, and the offense is completely incapable of moving the ball. That's what
Yeah.
this reminds me of.
They double doink it in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is what this reminds me of.
Oh, that's too
It's
soon.
literally what
Too
these
soon.
Browns. It's what these Browns teams looks like. It's what this Browns team looks like to me. Where it's like
Yeah.
the offense is god awful. They can run the ball a little bit. They got major quarterback issues, but that defense keeps you in games.
Yeah.
So it's like that defense is good. That defense is good, man. It's a legitimate
Oh, yeah.
defense. It's a defense that I'd be starting in fantasy at this point. It's a defense I'd be trying to avoid like hell.
Hmm.
If I have matchups against it, it's not great. It really is. It is good enough to move the needle. So those are the top 2. And then is there anybody like lower down? Because a lot of these guys just won't be available, unfortunately. Herbert kind of turned the corner. I imagine he got picked up just based on his name if he was available last week, and then he had a good game, so he won't be unlikely. Kyler is an interesting one that I had on here.
Mm.
We saw that they're saying Kyler's back. I don't know about all that, but he definitely looked healthy. So
The way he was moving around in the pocket, yeah, that
there were a
one
lot of
where he
questions about
scrambled
could he
left
run.
and then avoided and
Mhm.
that, and yeah,
Scored
no,
the
I
rushing
mean,
touchdown.
so he looks like he's definitely feeling a lot better. He's not, and pretty remarkable what they can do today because ACL used to be a pretty
Career
serious
ender.
and yeah, career ender, and you got him, you got Rodgers saying he's going to come back in mid-December. We'll
I don't know about that.
see
We'll
about.
see if that actually happens.
Well, what's the point? Like aside from proving something to
I think
yourself
it's.
and
I think it's.
everyone
I think
else?
it's. I think I don't like to try to understand what that man's thought processes are because they're weird and terrifying to me. Uh,
I
But
don't
with
take
Kyler,
enough ayahuasca for that.
yeah, right. I don't know enough about the Hat Man.
Yeah.
Um, nobody knows what the Hat Man is. They're gonna have to Google that. I'm not explaining it. They can Google it. The Kyler Murray would be one that I'm interested in. I'd max that at $50 though, as opposed to the other ones where it's like, no, the bidding starts at 50. For him, it's I would do 50, but that's as far into that as I'm willing to go.
Yeah.
And it's mostly not even a comment on him at this point. It's a comment on the team is still bad.
Yeah.
And they beat Atlanta, and I'm very much publicly and loudly on record about what I think about Atlanta. It's not positive for those of you who might be joining us late. I think if you've been rostering Trevor Lawrence to this point, hoping that it's going to get better, that you really need to have a critical conversation with. You need to draw a bath and take a bath and contemplate some stuff. You need to like sit down and think about it coldly, dispassionately, and really go look at like his playoff schedule because it doesn't get better. I'm to the
No.
point with Lawrence where I'm like, dude, you are going to be deep on my bench here, my friend, if not on the waiver wire soon. So I would, if you're still holding out hope for that, and then the other one that I have on that list is Deshaun,
Yeah.
injured again, and it's like, dude, you can't tolerate that in a guillotine because at
No.
some point it's going to kill you. He's going to go out and he's going to throw 2 passes, and you're going to start him, and he's going to blow his shoulder up, and then he's going to be done, and then you're going to get like a 2 for that, and you're going to lose, and you just can't. You can't deal with that anymore. You got to move on from that, especially in a guillotine. I'd be looking for alternatives in regular fantasy. In Dynasty, you might be screwed, but so that there's things like that in the background that I'm looking at, and then the list gets incredibly ugly after that anyway. So you probably don't want any part of it. But yeah, it's just some of those notes like Lawrence, you got to find an alternative. Deshaun, you got to find an alternative. I still got my eye on Geno. He ain't playing Washington every week. Like it's you got to kind of keep an eye on Geno in the background. He should not be any higher than your backup quarterback, unless you're playing in like a 2 QB league or something crazy.
No.
So it's those types of deals. But anything else on quarterback before we go into running back?
No, I think that pretty much does it. There's really not. I'm not interested in Will Levis or any other.
Not for guillotine.
No. Well, yeah, I mean,
In Dynasty, sure.
yeah.
In Dynasty, yes. In redraft, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. It depends on my league.
Hmm.
In probably not, but maybe. It would depend on my league settings. And then in guillotine this time of year, no. Absolutely. Okay, we'll go to running back, and then so for traditional running back stuff here, I mean it's pretty humdrum, you know what I mean? But it's Devin Singletary, right? We probably agree on that. Devin Singletary is.
Yep.
I haven't talked to you about it, but I'm assuming Devin Singletary would be your number
Oh, yeah.
one running back claim, possibly
Oh,
the
yeah.
number one waiver claim overall.
Yeah. No, absolute. I mean, even when Damian Pierce comes back, it's gonna be an updated timeshare from
He
what it
was losing
was.
that job anyway.
Yeah, and
And if
he looked a lot more explosive than
oh boy, if you're
Damian
losing your
Pierce
job to
has.
Devin Singletary, you gotta draw a bath, and you gotta get in it, and you gotta have a critical, cold, dispassionate conversation with yourself about where you are, because
Yep.
like that is not good. And Devin Singletary, I will say, I know he's been playing better and people are excited about it because it's a running back that's doing something productive that might theoretically be available. I'm still not super impressed. Like he's still like the efficiency's still not great, and he himself has never been great. And
I mean, he's
you
had
know,
good weeks, but you look at last week what he did with 13 touches, and that kind of scares you because it's like, okay, he had a great week this week. Do I think that's going to consistently happen?
that's my point. The
I don't
consistency is
know.
not
I know that the
great.
opportunity is going to be there.
Yeah, he'll have
I
a
don't
shot.
know whether he's going to do much with
That's
it,
my
but
point. I'm
yeah.
talking about body. Look at the career of Devin Singletary. Plenty of opportunity on that career to
Yep.
do something.
Mhm.
And it just hasn't consistently, and that's always the issue. It just he has moments where he makes you want to believe in him, but consistently, it's just not ever been a thing with him. So
No,
know what you're getting into with Devin Singletary. It could be good. Yeah,
could
not
be.
sure about that. So then it gets interesting because this is when we start getting into matters of perspective and a little bit of like preference. Because I have a list of names that are all very similar, and I'm going to start with the two that we're contractually obligated to talk about because we are. Zach Charbonnet and Tajay Spears are still not rostered in nearly enough leagues. I am sick and tired of having this conversation. This feels like we're just going to have this conversation every single week at this point because we have had it almost every single week. Charbonnet puts up double-digit fantasy points in PPR. No one cares. Okay, you would care more if Ken Walker didn't haul off that huge touchdown
Mm.
because you take that out of his week, and that's not nearly as attractive. And then Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears should be rostered by anyone who has Derrick Henry. Same thing with Walker. You should have Charbonnet because if nothing else, we know that those are true handcuffs. If something happens to either Walker or Henry, those two guys are going to see the bulk of the snaps for
Well,
their
I mean,
respective teams.
Tajay Spears he's
I know.
seen last week's 60% of the snaps compared to Derrick Henry's 43. So, I mean,
Not the first time
you
that's
know,
happened either, by the way. Whenever the Titans lose, that seems to happen.
well, yeah, I mean, because when they're lining up going five wide, they're sending him all the way out wide. And, I'm sorry, he catches one pass in a PPR league. That's definitely going to do a lot more for you than the occasional time you get Derrick Henry running consistently for 10 yards,
Right.
and Henry's great. Don't get me wrong, but, banking on him running for 10 yards every single time, it's kind of Ian Artist posted, consistently two guys getting 1 point in PPR. There's a guy catching a pass and a guy running for 10 yards.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot less work going into it when you're just catching a pass. So,
100% on that. I mean, that tracks. So yeah, those two guys are like I want to say like those are the two guys. Those two guys should be rostered in a lot more leagues and are worth looking at. And then there's
mhm.
two other ones that I have. Ty Chandler is the one that people are excited about because he had 15 carries last week and scored in relief of Madison, and then Akers is done for the year. So the other big name is Ty Chandler. Look, I've seen Ty Chandler play football. I'm not that excited about this. See my comments for Singletary, comma Devin. It's not to me. It's kind of similar. I I put them in sort of a similar vein, which is they're going to get opportunities.
Mhm.
Chandler is going to start. He's going to have to. I think he's going to have to really like probably score to have consistent value. Could he do that? Sure. Does he have an amazing matchup against Denver this Sunday? You bet your ass.
Then
So
he's got Chicago after that,
I
which
know,
is
and then he's got the bye.
yeah.
So Ty Chandler is
So,
intriguing. He's got good matchups on a team that is moving the ball, largely because Josh Dobbs is running for his life, but it works. It's worked till now. It'll work until it
well,
doesn't.
and they might get Jefferson back too, and then you add that firepower. That offense is bound to be in the
I don't
red
know
zone
how the hell that's going
occasionally.
to work, man. I have no idea how that's actually going to work. As far as
No
like
one
when
knows.
Jefferson gets back, no one knows. That's going to be a mess to try to figure out, man. Like anybody who tells you they know how that's going to work is employed by the Vikings and is lying to you. It's just not something that I would deal with. So you've got he's on my list. I've got him right around like 4 on my list. You could
Mhm.
this list is somewhat subjective after you get past Singletary. You could kind of like order it how you want because it works a little weird for me because if you needed a guy that you needed to pick up and play, right? That I need to play like this week. Okay, well then I'm picking up either Singletary if he's available or Ty Chandler is my next choice. Because I just need bodies to play. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But if
Yeah.
I need running backs for the future, for the haul, that's Charbonnet and Spears. That's like we shouldn't even be talking about them. Like they should have been off this list weeks ago. So it's a little bit of a different thing. And then so yeah, Chandler would be my second choice of the like I need a guy that I'm gonna pick up and start. And then the final name I have is Keaton Mitchell, who we touched on last week. Remember how I mentioned that it feels like I'm watching like CJ Spiller or a very poor man's CJ2K?
Yep.
Okay, so we're back with this conversation. Keaton Mitchell had 13 fantasy points. 14 fantasy points in PPR. Would you like to guess at how he did that? He had 20 last week.
Very minimal amount of touches and very high amount of yards, and he's
Keaton
averaging.
Mitchell had 3 carries for 34 yards. It's pretty good. He
Yeah.
had 2 targets. He caught one of them for 32 yards and a touchdown. It's
Yep.
14 points. I feel like I'm watching CJ Spiller. I feel like I literally do. He really reminds me of CJ Spiller in a lot of ways, but I get why people are comparing like him to CJ2K because it's that kind of thing. It's like he's just really fast.
Mm-hmm.
He is. I got to give him credit for that. He's very fast. He's pretty elusive too, but he is not getting nearly enough work to justify the level of hype that is being put into Keaton Mitchell. I told you last week that you knew somebody was going to go blow their whole fab budget to acquire him. I'd say the average bid I saw from talking to my own an amalgam of a straw poll that I did of my own leagues, people we work with, the Discord, just people I was talking to. The average bid was something probably like $20-something in fab.
Yeah. It was about
a lot,
third.
man.
It was about a third of what you started out with.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You know.
You're talking about a guy who had, in reality, 4 touches, scored 14 fantasy points. I get it. I get the people. I'll put it this way: the people who like Taysom Hill, check out Keaton Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
You'll love it. You'll love it. It's right up your alley. If you are a gambler, and I don't mean like a smart gambler, I mean one of those people that goes to Vegas and just wants to roll them bones, and damn be the probabilities. You will love Keaton Mitchell. You'll love it. And Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
You'll love both of those things. Those are players for you. You should look into that because you will love it. Every Sunday you get to gamble and roll dice. You'll love it. It'll be your favorite thing. He could get a 2. He could get a 22. I don't know. It could be anything. Check out Tyler Lockett. Although that's not as fair anymore. That used to that's a dated
earlier in his career.
Yeah, early career Tyler Lockett. But that's kind of where I'm at with the big 5, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the ones that I'm interested in. And then I guess if all of those names were gone and you were really trying to get deep, Jaleel McLaughlin. Especially in PPR.
Mm-hmm.
But he would be down, like, it's those 5 guys, and then there's a gap. And then we get to Jaleel McLaughlin. So that's my list for traditional waivers. How about yours? I'm sure you want to reorder at least some of what I just gave you, Mister. I love the I love the Ravens running backs.
Well,
I will say that has worked out. I poo-pooed that a couple weeks there, and no, the Justice Hill thing hasn't worked out, but the whole at Ravens running back argument is working.
And I remember you talking about Jeff Wilson, and then Achane came in and totally cannibalized that.
Yeah, just killed it.
That's kind of happening with Justice Hill with Keaton Mitchell right now. Like that, it's not a thing anymore. Like they have their preferred scat back in Keaton Mitchell. Hopefully his snap share continues to increase and he gets more opportunities. But at this point, it's kind of late in the year to be betting on ifs and buts. Singletary's number 1, Ty Chandler's number 2. Mitchell, I'd probably put in number 3 just because the upside is a lot better than, Tajay Spears and Zach Charbonnet. I mean, he can break one off at any point. Tajay Spears, Zach Charbonnet, yeah, they catch passes, but at the same time, you have Will Levis and Geno Smith. And Geno Smith, has been better, but he's kind of come back into his shell this year from what he was. And, I'd honestly rather have the home run hitter. A couple other names I saw out there. Zeke, I know, is right at the threshold.
No,
No, he's over.
no, he's below because of
He's
the
below.
bye.
Okay.
They have a bye coming up, and I think he's
No,
been
it's
dropped.
this week. So that's something I would potentially be interested in because I think it looks like they're going to be benching Jones and rolling with Zappy. And if they do that, saw it last year, they want to simplify the offense, probably lean a little bit more on running the ball. So Zeke is definitely someone who can have upside. Ken Dorsey getting fired and you bring in Joe Brady. I think they're going to try to run the ball this time. So Latavius Murray has a little bit of value. And if you really want to galaxy brain it, Leonard Fournette, if that happens this year. And
Been there
then
2 weeks and has yet to be activated off the practice squad. So I don't know
that's
what's going on with
that's
that.
that's kind of why I say galaxy brain because it's just like, dude, it took him forever to sign, and now he's signed, and he's still not out there. So it just makes you
I don't
think
know if he
like,
wasn't in shape and they needed to get him into conditioning or figure out what they needed to do. But
yeah,
yeah, I will say, like, trade deadline is functionally this week in regular leagues.
mm-hmm,
Most leagues, it's kind of the end of week 11 is when the trade deadline happens. So
right,
check that out in your league. Uh, I don't know what they're going to do with Cook, but you saw it last night. They've been unhappy with him in certain areas. He's been losing snaps to Latavius Murray because Latavius Murray is a much better pass protector.
mm-hmm,
But they need a guy who can catch passes and do stuff. Well, Fournette proved later career that he was able to do that when he was playing with Tom Brady. But I don't know what they're going to do here. What I do know is that Cook fumbled on the first play last night, and they benched him for a quarter and a half. And then he came back in, and it wasn't his fault, but the second fumble happened because Allen literally didn't put it in his chest. He put it like in his face mask, and he was
yeah,
already like dropping the ball. They didn't even credit that fumble to Cook. They credited it to Allen.
mm-hmm,
So I think that's why Cook didn't get benched for the rest. That's the only reason why I think Cook didn't get benched for the rest of the game.
yeah,
Because if it was actually his fault, he'd have been done for the day. And then he dropped the ball on that 40-yard run and he just bounced back into his arms and he just took off. That is not, that's like one of the luckiest things I've ever seen.
yeah,
It's not repeatable. Like and
no,
so you've got a situation now where it's like, I don't know what they're going to do with Cook. The needle is going in the wrong direction. I can tell you that much. But then they fired their OC. So what does Brady want to do? Dog, I don't know. Like, I wish I knew. What I do know is this: is that if I've been relying on Cook to be like one of my regular running backs in my rotation, kind of want to look at alternatives this week before the trade deadline.
yeah,
And if I'm in a guillotine and I've had Cook and I've been relying on it, kind of want to see if I can get another running back for the stretch run.
right,
Might be willing to put up a very low ball bid on Fournette if nothing else was available, just to see. And if it doesn't pan out, I cut him. I will not spend more than like $1 on this. By the way, this is like a traditional holla holla, get that dollar, $1 bid type of bid. Like we are not spending real money on that.
mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Um,
You're not a Rico Dowdle guy, are you?
I'm coming around.
Ugh.
Coming around to Uncle Rico, I mean, this Cowboys offense since their bye has looked on fire. And, if he's going to end up getting some garbage time, if you have Tony Pollard, obviously, you should have him as a handcuff or,
Okay,
you
that
know,
I could maybe get behind. If you have Tony Pollard and you have a roster spot
uh-huh.
and you need an insurance policy for if Pollard goes down for the fantasy playoffs. Okay, I could
Hmm.
maybe get behind that.
Yeah. But I mean, aside from that, there's really not much to love there aside from the fact that, yeah, maybe they get in garbage time and they'll give it to him for a couple touchdowns, but you know, he's definitely got my attention where I used to just totally dismiss it. But I don't think unless you have Tony Pollard, it's still viable yet.
Okay, that I could meet you to there.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people talking about Rico Dowdle, and I'm like, guys, he had 12 carries. I know he had 80 yards. It was all in trash garbage time against the Giants. They ain't playing the
Yep.
Giants every week. Okay, like it's just not. This is not how that's gonna go. And
And
thank
even
God for that, because that game was
and
unwatchable.
well, and even that, it's like they were up 28-7 against the Giants, and they're still throwing the ball.
Yeah, well, they wanted to prove a
How
point.
much work is he really going to get anyway? Like,
They wanted to prove a point to the Giants, I think,
no, they did for
and
sure. But I'm
they
just
wanted to
saying,
embarrass them.
yeah, but I'm just saying for like Rico Dowdle, it's like okay, you get him for the garbage time. They're not even giving it to him in the garbage time. They're still got their starters out there trying to
Yeah,
pad
it
stats.
wasn't
So
until they were up like 35 to whatever that
yeah,
that finally started happening. There's certain names that I've seen people talking about that I'm just not interested in. Like Jerick McKinnon is one where it's like, yo, you are gonna have to convince me to roster Jerick McKinnon at this point. I know what he did last year, but
hmm
TikTok time is running out, man. Uh,
yeah,
Kenny Gainwell is a similar thing. Like, cool story, great training camp. I know they like him. Boy, they are not. He is not getting enough work to matter.
no,
Like, he almost is just the insurance policy to Swift at this point, where it's like Gainwell becomes a somewhat interesting insurance policy to Swift, but that's about it. And like, they're not even rostering Rashad Penny. He's just a healthy scratch every week. It's
yeah.
actually kind of funny. Uh, I mean, it's funny. It's funny in a kind of not. It's kind of a sad way. Um, as far as strictly guillotine goes, this is actually getting difficult because anybody with any kind of value actually gets rostered, and there was nobody that just totally murdered you in the background. So, like, if you just rattle it off, like CMC is probably not available. Eckler, no. Uh, you got like Hall, you got Etienne. Like, I don't think any of that was bad enough to kill you. The one thing I'll mention about Hall is if somehow Hall was available, I would spend a lot on that. And then it's just worth noting that Michael Carter was released by the Jets today. Yeah, you figured
Really?
that out. Yep. So Michael Carter got released by the Jets today, which was a little surprising. And apparently, what their stated reason was they want to give more touches to the kid, Israel Abanikanda. And there you go. Do with that information what you will. But you can fact check me. Feel free. That's a true statement. That did happen.
Jesus.
So yeah, Michael Carter gone, done. Michael Carter might actually sign with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have a feeling Carter is probably going to get picked up. I don't even know if he'll
Oh,
clear
that's
waivers.
no.
He probably will clear waivers.
Well, yeah. This
He
late
wasn't
in the
making a
year.
lot of money, so like
No.
it's a little surprising. But yeah, they released Michael
Yeah.
Carter to bring in Abaniconda, and they're going to promote him, and it's like, okay, whatever, Jets. Because the Jets always make quality decisions, as we know. They never do anything baffling or stupid. So yeah, Brees Hall. Uh, Brees Hall would be uh very interesting if he was available. That's one of those things where I would spend up on that. Free Brees Hall. Screw you, Salah. Stop taking him out of the game for Dalvin Cook. Really infuriating. And stop taking him off the field on third down for whoever. I was going to say Michael Carter, but that ain't a thing anymore. And then beyond that, I mean, I don't even know who else would be available. If Saquon was available because of the brutal game, I would be interested in that to a point.
hmm
Because he had a 7, so yeah, that might have killed you. But yeah, Hall and Saquon were the two that I was like, okay, that might have hurt you because Hall's, he's not been horrible, but it's back-to-back 10s. So if that managed to get you killed, then somebody killed, I would get in on that. I think better days are ahead. The man has like two of the longest rushing plays in the NFL right now for this season. And then really, it's just like there's just not a lot that would be available, even in Guillotine. Singletary, it gets to Singletary very quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, go ahead and take a look at James Conner. I guess if he was still out there and nobody picked him up, although I can't imagine that happened.
Somehow.
Yeah, it's just it gets very ugly. You get to Devin Singletary and Ty Chandler very very quickly because okay, well 4 teams on a bye I guess is part of that, but and then I guess within that you'd have Bijan, Ramondre, Taylor, and I forget who the 4th bye week team was. Oh, Kamara.
Saints.
So you'd have four running backs on a bye.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also part of this. But there's just not a lot on here that I'm super excited for beyond if Brees Hall was available, I would spend some cash. Same thing with Joe Mixon, I guess. Like if Joe Mixon was available, but he scored a touchdown, so I don't know. But yeah, you just have to know kind of like who's available. But basically anybody in that top 24 at this point, yeah, I'm in. And we're getting to that time of year where feel free to start loosening the purse strings a little bit with 4 waiver claim periods to go. I'd like to be able to wait. If I had a good team, I'd like to be able to wait like 1 or 2 more. But if you see something that you really want, it's time to shoot your shot, generally speaking. So what about you? Is there anybody that you wanted to highlight? Big like second half performer, maybe? Something crazy?
Not necessarily. I mean, I know Derrick Henry was kind of down, but that goes without saying. Go out and get him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
You
we'll
know.
just go with the general advice of anybody, basically anybody who's weekly in the top 24 at running back, you should be critically evaluating. Even if, and that, by the way, even if you have good running backs, you should be doing that
Yeah.
because injuries happen all the time. And what's fun about this year is that flex running back is an utter tire fire.
Mm-hmm.
So it really gets ugly by like in a week where everyone was playing, I think you'd have maybe 30 quality running backs. Maybe. So it gets very ugly very, very quickly. But we'll go to wide receiver. Wide receiver is just this freaking soup of crap. We talked about this last week. A lot of crap at wide receiver. For me, number 1 is still Demario Douglas. He's doing his best to do a poor man's Kendrick Bourne impression. I understand that they have a bye, but Demario is kind of like I'd like him on the end of my bench for my playoff team type of deal. Similar vein to that is Noah Brown. As much as I am terrified of it, because he's had 2 huge games and nothing. So that's a little concerning. That being said, I like their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So Noah Brown is another one, and then the one that I see people getting really hyped up for is Brandon Cooks, and I'm just not really sold on that idea. Like I understand he had 9 receptions for 173 yards and a touchdown last week, and their schedule is really good. But I probably would be. I'm a little skeptical about rostering Cooks and that's going to be sustainable. But that's where we are. And then I have 2 other names that I'm interested in, and it's the young guns that I've kind of referenced before. And it's Jaden Reed, which we already kind of touched on. Jaden Reed, widely available. And I would be honestly, I'm more interested in a Jaden Reed. It depends on what you need to a certain extent. So I'll qualify it that way. But I'm more interested in a Jaden Reed than I am in like a Brandon Cooks or a Noah Brown. I acknowledge both of Noah Brown and Brandon Cooks have higher upside. I get that. I truly get that. You're talking about guys on good offenses that could go off, but also could put up nothing because they're not really the primary weapons on those teams.
No.
Shane Reed, as the season continues to roll on and the Packers fade from relevancy, I think is a candidate to like get some real playing time and real work because they're going to want to get him reps and see what they have. And given what we've seen so far, when they do that, Jaden Reed is like I'll do this the non-scientific way. I'll give you the game. I'll give you the fantasy points per game for Reed so far as rookie season. PPR 7, 20, 9, 11, 2, 11, 12, 7, 19. It's a lot of double-digit games in there. He's got 5 double-digit games compared to Cooks and Brown that have 1 and 2 respectively. Right? You see my point? Like
Yeah.
Jaden Reed has already been more consistent than some of those other guys, but I acknowledge his upside is not the same. But if you need a consistent body, I am interested in Jaden Reed, especially because they are going to get in some games down the stretch where they are going to have to throw. And those games basically start now. Chargers, Detroit, Kansas City. They're going to be throwing. So Reed is one that I like for kind of like the haul. I'd like to just see what I can get. Particularly if I'm playing in some sort of keeper league, because I have a feeling that will be very cheap to maintain for another season if you wanted it, if you had a slot. So he's one that I've got kind of like circled where it's like, no, and you've heard me talk about Jaden Reed enough this year. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I know it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but he's perfect for their system. And it's like it's why they drafted him. Like he is perfect for what they want to do. He's the perfect flanker for them. And they need to get him involved because Watson has been sucking. And it's like, we're getting to the point where I'm like, by the way, I called that mile away in the preseason. And in July, I was saying that, like, you don't want Watson, get that crap out of here. But Dobbs has kind of been pretty, effective as well. So we're looking at a situation, Lance, where Dobbs and Reed are kind of like the real wide receivers on that team. And like Watson is just a dude who runs down the field with his arm up. And when it works, it works. But I'd rather deal with that. And then the other one that I have circled, and this is a little bit more of a long shot, so bear with me here slightly. And it's Michael Wilson. Just because he's widely available, and with Murray coming back, so you're telling me there's a chance. You know what I mean? And yes, he might be overshadowed by Rondale Moore. It's possible. We don't know. But Wilson has a certain level of appeal, and Wilson is one of those guys that if I had an open roster spot and I had $1, I'll put my dollar on Michael Wilson and just see what I get. You know what I mean? Nothing crazy, but I would be somewhat interested for $1. For Jaden Reed, I would give you $5. That's how much stronger I feel about that. And then I have one last one, which is just like it's a short-term rental, very short-term, in fact, but it's Trent Irwin. 1 more week. You get 1 more week on this if you need somebody. So if you need a spot starter and you don't mind playing a guy going on Thursday night against a good defense, Trent Irwin. It's not great, but the Bengals like him. And he caught a touchdown last week, and there's every chance he could do it again. So the Bengals like him more than I do, but it is what it is. They're the ones making the calls. But that's kind of where I'm at in terms of regular, just overall normal waivers that would apply to any league. I suppose we could talk about Elijah Moore if you want to, but I can't really be bothered. I don't care. So what about you? Do you have any Do you have any affinity for any of the names that I just said? Do you think I'm crazy, or are you more like, give me A.T. Perry, give me that A.T. You already mentioned Winston.
The only thing with Winston is I'm willing to bring up Rashid Shaheed,
Yeah, get on the bus.
because I mean, I think their styles of play are a match made in heaven.
God, just
And
tie a
if you can
blindfold
get,
around Winston and just let him throw it
yeah,
down the field without looking. Ah, God, just let Rashid Shaheed run. That sounds great.
and he'll be there every time. I like Reed. I've definitely come around on him. He's definitely this team's number two, and especially, you look at the amount of targets that Watson is catching, he's definitely getting a leg up on him. Noah Brown and Brandon Cooks, again, they're in high-powered offenses with quarterbacks who are slinging it right now between Dak and Stroud. So you're going to have upside with them. Elijah Moore, I like, and I get it. He's, you know, kind of been the, you know, redhead stepchild of the NFL since he came in,
He
but
does the dirty work for Cleveland, though.
he does, and they'll give him the ball. He's in the, Debo Rondale Moore
He is very
role
much in the
for,
Debo role. He's a very, very,
you know,
very poor man's Debo Samuel.
yeah,
Very poor.
and
But
you know, so this offense can get, a little bit more going. I think you could definitely talk yourself into starting him, and Quentin Johnson, at least have to give him a little credit for catching his first touchdown. So, you know, I don't know that I would be 100% interested in him, but, I've gone from, packing it up, calling it a day on him to, okay, let's open it up again and see what he does. I'm monitoring it. I'm not taking it seriously, but I'm monitoring it again.
I understand. I understand. Um. Okay. Okay. No, that's interesting. That's uh. That's very interesting. Okay. All right. Anybody else, or should we pivot into? Let's pivot into uh Guillotine. And boy, oh boy, is this a freaking mess in here. Because man, the obvious one is the obvious one is Diggs, right, with the 6, the
Mhm.
lovely, super awesome 6 that he took. Okay, really don't think he's going to take a 6 again. Just throwing that out there. Maybe just throwing out the idea that he's probably not happy about taking a 6, and he's the kind of guy who isn't going to not talk about that to the coaching staff. He's going
Yeah.
to say some words to them about give me the GD football. And so I think if Brady is not neurodivergent, that we
Figure
will
that out.
see a resurgence of Diggs here. So if Diggs was on the wire in my guillotine,
Yep.
yeah, this is an area where I am willing to spend money, and I'm not trying to just save money in the background.
Mhm.
Uh, the other one is Cooper Cup. I
Mm.
already talked. I already touched on it. I think better days are ahead. They got the bye. They're going to get Kyron Williams back. I think they're going to have a week to kind of sit down and figure it out a little bit, and then kind of go from there. That's that's where I'm at with that. I think Adams probably is still rostered by now. If Adams was still available, I would begrudgingly look at it, but I would not pay the Diggs or the Cup money. And Diggs and Cup money, you're talking about like easily over 100.
Oh yeah.
You're talking about like more than that. It would depend, and that obviously depends on how much money other people have in your leagues. But no, I would put up like over 100 for either of those two guys. Adams is lower. Adams is like 50. That has less to do with Adams and more to do with the people throwing Adams the football. But he probably got rostered again for very cheap after last week, and then he got a 15. So I don't know if that's going to be available, but it's worth looking into. And then honestly, it's like the next name I had was Adam Thielen because he had that brutal game on Thursday night. And if by some miracle that team got eliminated and Thielen was available, I'd put up the same amount of money for Adam Thielen as I would for Devontae Adams, which is right around the $50 mark, possibly a little more if I was really desperate. What a weird, jacked up sentence that was. That I would have laughed at myself in the preseason for saying that. But this is redraft, baby. So you've got a situation there. They're saying Justin Jefferson might get reactivated this week. I don't know. We'll see about that. I don't. But yeah, I don't really want DeAndre Hopkins. Cool story with the 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Hasn't really
that's
been good after that.
yeah.
We'll have to wait and see on Jefferson. Might be getting him back this week. Might not be. A lot of questions around that.
Calvin Ridley.
I'll be honest with you, man. I don't really want Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Don't really want to deal with it. Christian Kirk is one thing. Travis Etienne on that team, sure. Even good old Evan Ingram for the right price, I'd probably live with it. I don't really want Calvin Ridley. That's like one of those headaches that I don't want to deal with. 24, 5, 7, 12, 21, 7, 2, 14, 4.
Yeah, it's all over the board.
I don't want to deal with it. No. I acknowledge that he has some level of value, but in Guillotine especially, I can't tolerate a 4.
No.
I can't deal with it. This is why I look at things like Jaden Reed as over some of those other names where it's like, yeah, because I'm going to get 10. And I'm probably happier getting the 10 than I would be obviously I'd be happy getting a 30, but realistically, what is that going to look like? So it's a bit of a jumble in the background. So, but yeah, there's just, it gets really muddy really quickly. And Rashee Rice is a similar thing. No, I don't want that. Zay Flowers, I don't really want either. Jacoby Myers, I don't really want. Tyler Boyd, I only want if either Higgins or, Chase is going to miss time. Jahan Dotson, I don't really want. It's just not consistent enough. Jerry Jeudy is done. I'm done with that. Jerry Judy's going to be playing. Do you think Jerry Jeudy will enjoy his time in Carolina next year?
I don't think he's going to go to. I think as long as Steve Smith has anything to say about it, he won't be in Carolina.
Then do you think Jerry Jeudy will enjoy his time in New York next year?
Maybe if he can figure it out, because
well, he's gonna get another job, man.
absolutely.
He's too young.
And he's very extremely talented. It's just it hasn't.
He's
worked
too
out
young,
for him
and
in
that
Denver.
5th-year option was already picked up. So
yeah,
technically speaking, he will be on Denver next year, theoretically, because that was his 5th-year option that they exercised. Right. So theoretically, he is supposed to be playing in Denver next year. I don't know how much I believe that.
Yeah, I don't either.
So I don't know how that's going to work exactly. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work exactly. So maybe Jerry Jeudy will enjoy his time in Buffalo. I don't know. But for what I do know is for this year, I'm not interested. And we'll have to see where he goes. And if he was back on Denver next year, I don't even know how interested I am in that, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I haven't been interested really since he's got drafted by Denver. I was disappointed.
Well, he's had flashes, but man, there's some.
He's good. He's never really. Wilson's the most talented quarterback he's been around. So I guess, I kind of bought into the hype when Wilson got traded there. And then I was like, okay, this isn't working either. Great.
Yeah, but Wilson just wants to throw to the big guy, which is what he's done for a lot of his career. So
well, if it works.
Yeah. Remember Doug Baldwin? I was thinking about that the other day. Little Dougie B action in your life. Oh, God. So underrated.
Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate, all those guys.
No, just more like Golden Tate is what it is. I remember Golden Tate, but I always had a soft spot for Doug Baldwin because it was just one of those things where it was just like, holy crap, like that guy does everything for them, literally does it all, and no one cared. All right, well that's really all I had for wide receiver. Was there anything else you
Mhm.
wanted to touch on?
No, I mean that's really what it is. There's
Then with the
scraps.
final like 5-10 minutes here, let's go through tight end because this never takes very long because tight end is tight end. I don't really have too much in the way of uh like real traditional waiver advice.
Mhm.
It's more like, okay, here's a note. Pat Fryermuth might be coming back this week. It's trending that direction that Pat Fryermuth will be back this week. Fryermuth is interesting to look at because he is Fryermuth is interesting to look at just because of history, basically. He hasn't done a whole lot this year,
No.
but historically, he can move the needle. So it's worth looking at. And he's well under 50% rostered at this point. So
Mhm.
I would be willing to put $1 on it or $2 or something like that and stick him on the end of my bench and see what happens. Because you probably have some kind of streaming option. Because if you don't really, there's not a whole lot of like sunk cost to that. And if it doesn't work out, you could cut him. So that's fine. So he's one that I have, and then the other one and then it gets really ugly really quickly, because of just what's available. Luke Musgrave still available. Still don't know that I care. And then the
Yeah.
third one I have is Tyler Conklin, just
Mm.
because Conklin is kind of a Conklin is kind of the definition of streaming tight end. He has a lot of double digit performances. I'll say that. Like he gets a lot more targets and he has a lot more double digit performances than people probably realize because it's freaking Tyler Conklin and no one cares. But like for example, 2 weeks ago, he had 6 targets,
Mm.
66 yards, finished with 13 fantasy points in PPR. Last week, 7 targets, finished with 14 points in PPR. Week 5,
Caught all 7 of them.
yes, he did. But just my greater point is just to get 7 targets as a tight end,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
something. Like
and
that in and
especially
of itself is something.
when you consider it's Zach Wilson as a quarterback too, and he just wants to
Right.
get the ball out of his hands before he gets hit. So.
Right. And that helps Conklin for sure.
Mm.
So it's like Musgrave and Conklin are kind of the two that I look at that are like non like household names. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're the real streaming tight end class around here where it's like Musgrave could theoretically, be somebody someday. And he's getting some targets now, but it's kind of ugly. So I
Mhm.
would almost rather prefer Conklin. I've recommended Conklin a few different times on Thursday this year as part of our streaming segment for the audience. And I recommend Conklin because he ends up, especially in good matchups, he can get you double-digit points and he doesn't have to score to do it. And that's hard to do as a tight end.
Yeah.
So by default, he merits consideration. And that's really all I have. I know some people are still holding out hope for Michael Mayer. I've moved on. I know Jason would tell you Donald Parham. I can't be bothered to care. And I know some people still think Chigakonkwo might one day be a guy, but I am not in that. I am not in that camp. So I'm
Yeah.
more interested in a Cade Otton,
Mhm.
a uh, a boomer bust type of thing with Cade Otton.
Yeah.
So
No, he's definitely trending in the right direction, and he's done a decent amount with the snaps he's been given. So I
yeah, the
mean.
problem is he had a terrible game last week, and he's got a couple really bad matchups coming up. So
Mhm.
it makes it hard to want to recommend Cade Otton.
Yeah.
And this is a year where it is the exact poster child for why you don't really bother rostering 2 tight ends. This is the year that explains it
Yeah.
because it's freaking pointless. Like yeah, you have one, and then if they get hurt or something, you figure it out week to week.
Right.
and that's just kind of what you do, because
Mm-hmm.
the majority of people are all in the same boat. It's called everyone that doesn't have Travis Kelce is in the same boat, and Hawkinson's making a case for mattering.
And Laporta.
Less so Laporta. Laporta's been good, but not to the level of
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson and
But,
Kelce.
he's had some good weeks, so
He's had a couple good
for
weeks.
sure.
He's been okay. He's been good for a rookie.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to crown him. I know a lot of people that are ready to crown his ass, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And yes, I'm doing it. You want to crown him, then crown him. They are who we thought they were. So no, that's that. There's things like that, but like there's just like, and Mark Andrews has been up and down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Kincaid's been good, but like he has to score to really matter. Ferguson's been good, but that's literally the same problem. That's all he does. He only matters inside the 20.
Yeah.
So, but that's the Cowboys offense.
In a
That
nutshell.
It's literally how the Cowboys offense proceeds, whether it's Witten, Schultz, Ferguson, Blake Jarwin. Took me a minute to remember his name, actually. Like, that's just how that offense operates. So,
Yeah.
and then the other one that's been interesting is Trey McBride. It's kind of been up and
If
down, but
I mean, if he's still available, absolutely.
he's not.
I'm actually,
That ship
yeah,
sailed a couple weeks back.
yeah. No, I'm definitely more excited about Trey McBride than I am any of these other guys.
Yeah, McBride's been good, but McBride is the ship sailed on that like a couple
Yeah,
weeks back.
yeah.
And then this is also segueing me into the idea of I don't really have anyone for guillotine purposes because Kelce played well, Hawkinson played well, Andrews would be the closest one,
But he
uh,
probably didn't kill you.
but he probably didn't kill you. If he did, I would be willing to maybe spend a little bit on that.
Hmm.
Laporta didn't kill you. Like, none of this killed you.
No.
So there's nothing really in the top 12 that I'm very much that's probably even available. There might be one just because of attrition. And if you need a tight end, go zero in on whichever one got clipped and then figure it out from there. If it's an
Hmm.
upgrade over what you have, great. If it's not, then keep your wallet in your pocket. That's just the way that it goes. Remember when I said tight end was going to take 5-10 minutes? Yeah, that's just why. Because what advice do you want me to give you past that? So I
Yeah.
have nothing further on tight end. How about you? Anything tight end related that you want to talk about? Anything the people should pay attention to?
Pay attention, not roster yet, but Tanner Hudson for Cincinnati, he had a good game. And I mean, if he can get someone to kind of fill into that, we've seen it 2 years ago be Uzama. We've seen it last year be Hayden Hurst. If he can start to really fill that role, then I'd start to get interested because the Cincinnati offense, once it gets rolling, and saw a couple weeks ago, the wheels really started turning,
They won 4 straight
Yeah.
because they were
So,
healthy for the first time all year.
yeah.
Burrow was
So,
healthy, Higgins was healthy, the O line was healthy to the extent that their O line even exists because it's crap even when it is healthy. But they were healthy, and it does
mhm.
make a difference. And it's like you saw what Cincinnati has had a bad year by their standards. It's largely just down to the fact that they're all hurt.
Mhm.
They were hurt coming into the year. It's just one of those teams this year that, and then of course, like in that game, they finally get everybody healthy. Chase gets nicked up. Higgins
Yep.
pulls a hammy. It's just the way that it is. Like it's just going to be that way this year for the Bengals. They're going to
Mhm.
have to struggle. They might make the playoffs, but they're going to have to struggle, bless it, super hard to get over the finish line.
Might be a competition between Burrow and Allen for that last wild card spot, which is
Yeah,
crazy
wild. That's
to think
not how
about.
Vegas had it. That's not how Vegas had that.
No.
So, all right. Well, good stuff. Good stuff. I'm glad we were able to help everybody out here, and then we will see. And just a quick PSA for the audience. There is no making the cut next week. We are going to merge this show for Thanksgiving. It's going to be on Wednesday, and I will bring
Mhm.
this up on Thursday as well. We are going to be merging with Roster the People. So it's going to be me and Jason, and then we're going to have Lance on as well, and then that's how we'll have the three of us, and we'll be taking questions and helping people set lineups and breaking down a little bit of the games for Thursday, and then we'll answer some. I'm sure we'll get some Sunday questions in there, and but otherwise the schedule is not going to change. Monday for next week, you will still have the Wire with Jason and Mike Berlin with Steve in the background, I think, producing that. And then Wednesday, you'll have the combo show between Making the Cut and Roster the People to get everybody ready for the Thursday games on Thanksgiving. Also, give you something to listen to on Wednesday night as you prepare for probably a long drive over to the families for Thursday. And then I know a lot of people are always setting lineups on Wednesday night because they're busy on Thursday. It's hard to get people to pay attention on Thursday. They're watching the game, but they're also dealing with their family. And then on Friday, Locked In will be at its normal time. So Mason and Vishal will help answer all your questions, get everything set. And then on Sunday, Jason and I will do the final countdown. Jason's on camera. I'm moderating the chat and feeding him the questions, and we will do the final countdown. I expect it to be pretty busy on Sunday, honestly, with people being busy all weekend. And this is being a critical week. So I'm expecting Sunday could go one of two ways. It's going to be either the busiest time ever, or with a really light slate of games, it might be the show we end early. I don't know. I'm a little interested to see how that goes. Because I don't think it's going to be normal. I think it's going to be something weird. I'll be most surprised if it's just a normal week in the background. But that's the schedule for next week. So just it's all been posted, it's all uploaded, we're ready to go. So just make that adjustment mentally. No Tuesday show for the audience. We will be on Wednesday. You'll see us go live. It'll notify you. You'll get your normal notifications and all that fun stuff. So save your questions. Get ready for Wednesday, and enjoy. Just make it through the week and try to enjoy. Try to enjoy Thanksgiving. I know that's hard for a lot of people because you have to spend a lot of time with your family and you're dealing with kids, and everybody seems to have that one uncle or aunt that nobody wants to see, but you always see them every Thanksgiving. Everybody I know has that family member where it's just like, oh God, are they coming this year? I don't even want to. Why am I here? Like, I want to deal with this. But anyway, Lance, you excited for next week? You excited to make your roster the people debut?
Yeah, I'm excited to dive headfirst into it and get ready
Excited to
for
listen to
some
us talk about the
Thanksgiving games.
Showtime Grill and opening a strip club at Buc-ee's and B movies that we like.
All of it.
Come
All of
prepared
it.
with that. If you've got movie
Dive in.
recommendations, bring those too. We get those questions more than you would think.
I'll get some stuff rolling.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it too. It should be fun. We haven't had a third person on that show in a while, so it'll be nice to get back to the old format where it was always a 3-man show.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in the interim. I think it'll be a good time. But until then, I've been Neil. This has been Lance as always, and I'll never learn how to point on camera. I've been doing this for years. I can't do it. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your week. We will see you on Thursday. And until then, keep up the nonsense.